Hello, my name's Okada, and today we're going to take a quick look at the demo for Main Sequence. Now, Main Sequence is a sort of space station automation sandbox, and currently it's in playtest. I'm going to tell you right up front, it's barely more than a tech demo. There's not really any content, but there's some stuff to do in it to get a feel for how the game plays and maybe where they're going with it. And as of the recording of this video, the developers are accepting applications to join the playtest. So if after watching this you feel like you want to try it out, you can head to their Steam page and click the button to apply for the playtest. Now we're going to try to go over most of what is in the game currently. I'll give you some tips and tricks, and we'll talk about what I wish I had known before I started my first run to make things a bit easier as you go. So with all that being said, let's start a brand new game. Alright, here we are in our starting ship. Now, one of the things to understand about the way this game runs is that pretty much everything is modular. So this ship is modular. These like segments and whatnot, it's kind of plug and play. You just put everything together like Legos. And also, even though this is an airlock, we cannot go out. There is no spacewalking. So everything will take place inside either a station or a ship. And of course, with stations, those are also modular. Now, as far as the tutorial goes, which you'll see in the top left, we're going to loosely follow the tutorials, but honestly, you can consider me the tutorial. So we're going to be a little bit loosey-goosey about it. But we do want to progress it, so it says to scan. Let's scan for titanium. That will update the mission to getting some titanium ore, nickel ore, and water ice. It looks like some over here. Where are we? Here we go. It says we only need to pick up 50 of each. To be honest, you're going to win a little bit more than that. So let's just fly around real quick, like grab a few resources, and then we'll start doing some crafting. Alright, now that we've grabbed some basic resources, let's run over to the workbench here. It is both a refinery and an assembler, though the one on the spacecraft is pretty slow. So let's queue up some smelting by control clicking 5 at a time. Let's get 50. Let's get 50 of the nickel plates as well. And the water ice that we acquired is purely for making fuel. So we don't need any of that at the moment, but it's good to have it on hand. The tutorial wants us to build 5 hull plates and 5 lightweight frames. To be honest, we're going to want more than that. But just to get past the tutorial, we'll select those first. So once this gets to 5, there we go. We can start that, and you can see both of them are running at the same time. Again, it's very slow doing this. So while we wait, let's take a look at the map and what we're going to do next. Now, the reason why we're crafting those materials is because we want to build a starter space station. And it's going to tell us just build it wherever we want. And you can do that, but honestly, we want to be a little bit tactical about it. And this is something I didn't know before starting, and this is going to be one of our beginner tips. Now, as you can see here on the map, there's all kinds of things all around us. If I'm going to zoom out a little bit more, a little bit more. There we go. And you can see these yellow ones around here. These are large asteroids. We like these. You can see nickel ore, 72,384. The average asteroid that we mine has somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 60 total ore in it. So when we build our starting station, we're going to want to be within range of one of these mega asteroids. Now for me, what I want to be close to is going to be water ice because we're going to need fuel for everything. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit more. Take a look around here. See if we find some good water ice. That's off the screen. Let's see what we have. Nickel, water. Oh, look at that. 2 of them close to each other. That's good. I like that. What else is in the area? Some more water ice, silica. We're going to need everything. We have a titanium nearby. That's not too bad either. This is a good candidate. I like having all these together. That's nickel as well. That's a lot more nickel than we're going to need. But you know what? Let's do this. We're going to right click on this water ice asteroid. It's going to create a waypoint. And this is going to be the region I think we're going to build our space station in. And you can see in the top left, the missions have updated to constructing a station. We're going to stop about here. We don't need to be right in the face of the giant asteroids, just be relatively close to them. 500 meters isn't bad. pop out of the seat. Now, since we can't actually spacewalk because, well, these don't work, what we will end up doing is just building through our window. After we grab the resources necessary to do so. Let's grab that. And the whole plating. Looks like these are still going, so I'm going to queue up a few more. Open up the build menu, go over to stations. And there we go, it's a starter station. Now we can have it like we're holding it on the end of a stick, or we can press tab and kind of angle it around. We don't have a whole lot of control over it, to be honest. Not that big of a deal. It's space. We don't care about the 3D orientation that much. So I'm just going to plop it down right there. And that is our starter station. We're going to pilot, fly on over to it, and we're going to dock with it. Actually, before we dock with it, take a look at it. You can see it's not much of a station, but it is modular, as we mentioned. So we have the primary build area, we have a dock, and we have a command area that's used for controlling the build of the station. So let's go ahead and dock with it. And welcome to your new home. I know it's not a whole lot to look at. And again, this game is primarily factory building in space, and that's what this grid is. This is where we're going to place machines. Before we start doing any of that, I'm going to configure this. We're going to rename the station. Let's call it Home Base. Sounds good. And we're going to rename the dock that we docked with to Home Base Main Dock. Don't worry about these things at the moment. Also, I'll tell you what, let's repaint it a little bit here. Something a little bit nicer. Now, I'm a big fan of green, my favorite color. Let's get a nice dark green, I think. Oh, that's nice. I like that. And for our secondary color, okay, let's go real dark. We don't want anything aggressive on the eyes. Maybe not that dark. There we go. It's a little contrasty. Don't worry about it. Okay, so what we can do is run all the way over here to this console, and this is where we have the ability to edit the station. And you can see we can build new command consoles, so we can always have this one moved. And we can add new docks, and we can build new stations. Now, if we try to do that right now, you'll see we don't have the materials for it. So I'm going to exit out. And right here is the inventory, where we'll start placing things for construction. But for now, let's get our basic automation up and running so we can start doing research, because we can't do much without research. All right, with some fresh resources in hand, and we don't have much space to work with, so we're going to throw our reactor in the corner. You can see it's a big boy. We're going to place a container. We'll just throw it in the corner. Get a refinery. We're going to throw some resources into it, set it to make titanium plates. Then we're going to grab some fuel to get the station up and running. There we go. We stole some from our ship's reactor. It's just fine. The important thing here is you can see how much more quickly the smelting is going to go on the station. So we want to get away from using the ship as quickly as possible. And we're going to use this to jumpstart expanding our station, so we got a little bit of room to breathe. And while we wait on that, let's look at what we need for a research lab. We need 5 plates, and we need 5 total magnetic coils. We can grab those from the ship. Make sure the ship's making some fuel for itself. plop down the research lab somewhere. Doesn't really matter where. And you can see on the top left, we have completed our mission. We need to select a new mission. Again, it doesn't matter what order these are in. These are tutorials. We're kind of going to do both at the same time. Let's go ahead and select automation. Bring up research. And we want logistics. This is going to give us our belts so we can start basic research. Add to the queue. You can see there are two resource types for research. There's material science and computation science. So if we look at a science lab, this will explain to us what it takes to make those things. So for material science, we can feed it hull plates, servo motors, or advanced plates. Personally, I feel like servo motors are the best bang for the buck, but right now we can't make them. So we'll feed it hull plates, which are worth 1 point at a time. Computation science requires basic circuits, which we'll get to later. So let's make our first assembler. Again, we're just going to plop it in the corner. We're going to end up adding modules onto this and moving all these machines, so don't worry about the mess. Now from the assembler, we can select anything that we've researched. We need hull plates for our starting research. And you can see it takes 3 titanium plates per. A little bit expensive. And with some hull plates made, we only need, I believe, 10 of them, right? If we look back at the research, it's only going to take 10 points of material science. We know these are worth 1 apiece. So we're just going to plop them into the machine and let it go. Now, of course, we're going to want to ramp up our research capacity, but that's something we'll work on in a little bit. And ta-da! We have logistics. Boy, this is going to make everything much easier. Go to our build menu. Now we have access to belts. We're just going to simply belt that over. And the reason why we built that container originally was so that we could throw a bunch of titanium into it and not have to deal with it. And while all this runs, let's go and pick up a bunch of resources, because what I did is I marked the other major asteroids on the map. And it's about automation, so we can walk away while that runs. Where is our titanium asteroid? There's our silica. Titanium. 4.7 kilometers away is not bad at all. We are going to set up automation, so don't worry about how long it takes to get there. And while we don't have a jump drive yet, we can speed up the footage. So make sure you're buckled in. And just like that, here we are. Took no time at all, did it? So we're just going to start carving this up. Now, our ship has very limited pew-pew capacity. We will eventually have a mining laser that'll make this go much more quickly. But this still beats having to fly around looking for tiny asteroids over and over again. So we'll just spend a little bit of time here gathering up a whole bunch of titanium ore. So give me a minute and I'll bring you back in. All right, I think that's enough. Honestly, that only took me like 2 or 3 minutes. But while we're on this screen, as you can see, I didn't have to go to the crafting station to see all this. This is our interface right here under E for the craft that we're on currently. And you see another feature up here, autopilot. I'm going to configure that. And I'm going to select our main base, the main dock. And I'm going to turn on autopilot and go hands-free, which is very nice. Also, while I'm at it, let's rename our ship. Emerald Gypsy. And we will likewise paint it green, because I can't get enough green. Let's get good emerald green. That's nice. And we can even get out of our seat and walk around, admire the new paint job, and we'll let the ship fly itself. The ship will dock for us. Now, I mentioned earlier not to worry about these. Those are used to determine what gets loaded or unloaded from these. So I'm going to middle click to select an existing thing to build. And we're going to go here and say that the left side is going to be titanium or to be unloaded. That's going to come straight off of our ship. That's the beginning of the automation that we'll have in this game. I want to get some room in our inventory here. In fact, I'll tell you what we're going to do. Let's be a little smart about this. Let's delete, delete, middle mouse button, and pop one right there in between. Get all that out of our inventory. Now, of course, it would be wise for us to export this probably to a storage, but right now I want to work on getting some room to breathe on the station. Also, we're out of power. Over here. Yeah, we ran out of fuel. That's fine. Not a big deal. All right, we need to get a few resources together so we can expand the station. And then our first priority is going to be to get mining drones up and running, because they're going to make our life a whole lot easier. All right, time for some base expansion. Now here we are on the base building menu. And we're going to just give ourselves a bunch of space. Get some stations here. Pretty cheap to build, just 10 hull plates apiece. And we're going to grab ourselves a mining drone. I'll toss it down, let's say right there. Seems as good as any. And you can see we have all the materials we need right here in the top right corner. So we're going to apply changes. And that's all it takes. Look, we now have a much larger station. Super easy. Now all of this is going to get moved. Don't worry about any of it. The important thing here, actually, before we go, let's do this. I'll make sure I have enough things in my inventory, because you can see I empty my inventory into the station's inventory for the build. Let's just reclaim all of that. Make sure we have enough for one of these. We do. And enough for one of those. We do. Okay. I think what we're going to do is we're going to steal away how little fuel we had left in the reactor. Let's just go ahead and dismantle the reactor. The station's not functional at the moment. We're going to run all the way down here to where we built the drones. Let's just pop down a container. Put it right here. Get ourselves a couple of belts for quicker throughput. Put ourselves a refinery. Plop it down here over in the corner. Get our reactor back up and running, because we can't do anything without power. Stuff it in the other corner. I'm going to middle click to get myself a belt. Connect those. And connect those. The fuel we had left in there. You can see we're running out of fuel quickly, but that's going to not be an issue anymore. Welcome to drones. Now you can see everything that is in range of the station. And this is why I said, before we build our first station, we want to look for a major asteroid. Because if we had just plopped it down anywhere, look at this, 184 silica in range, less than 600 titanium in range, our drones would just be done. That would just be it, and there would be no automated resources coming in through this fashion. So it's much better to do it like this. So we're going to assign water ice. And start mining. I probably should have shown you, but there were a couple of drones sitting in these ports. They'll come back in a moment, but they're out there mining the ice for us. And they're going to bring them back. And they're going to feed them into here, and then we will just have fuel for days. Let's go Go ahead and set our refinery. Make sure our fuel is going to last us until the drones get back. None of our machines are running, so we're good. And here come our drones. Plop in there and they'll start unloading. And it's nice to have this little bit of a buffer. In fact, I'll tell you what, let's double buffer here. That way we can have extra fuel in case we need it for something else, which we will in the distant future. But now, this station is completely autonomous for fuel. We'll never have to worry about that again. So now that we understand the basics of drones and automating the station, let's skip ahead. The next thing we're going to want is the shipyard. All right, so we've knocked out a couple more researches, and as you can see, I've expanded the station a little bit just to give us a little bit of breathing room. It's not necessary, but it's nice to have a little space. So this is the little walkway that we built. Again, just cute, a little nice to look at. And we come over to the shipbuilder. So here we can configure the shipyard. We can rename it. Let's go ahead and do that. Main base. So it says shipyard. That works for me. And just like the base builder, this is where we can design our ships. Let's just go with a basic design. We don't need anything fancy. We need, of course, a space to start with. Let's get ourselves a cockpit. Around here. Get a little bit more space in the back. A docking collar. Sounds good, right? We need to be able to get off the ship. Now, this is not going to be a ship that we're going to be flying around in. This is part of our automation. So it doesn't have to have all the bells and whistles. It probably wouldn't hurt to have a workstation on it in case you're taking a ride on it and you need to do something. Don't want to get stuck out there with nothing. And I'm going to throw these on just because, again, in case we are using them. And you can see here it's red because it's trying to place it inside it. What we need to do is increase our height, and then we just plop it down. Come on, plop, plop. Thank you. And the new mining laser that we just unlocked, plop one of those down. And in case we're out there and we need to defend ourselves, let's get a cannon as well. Now all we need is the ability to get places. Let's grab some thrusters. And we need to head back down to the bottom height. One more. This is going to affect our speed. Flip it over. And of course, finally, we're going to need the ability to generate power for the ship. Small reactor is fine. And you'll probably recognize this because this is the same design as our starting ship, except with the mining laser. This is the list of what it's going to take to build it. What we're going to do is we're going to save it and call it, let's say, small freighter. And that way we now have a template that we can draw from. Now, I'm pretty sure we don't have the resources on hand, but I believe it took 80 magnetic coils. Let's plop these in just to see what it wants from us. Construct a new ship, small freighter, and this is what we need. Fortunately, between clips, I have expanded our base a little bit more. And over here, we have a nickel production wing, complete with the drones. So you can see it coming in, very nice. A couple of machines making nickel plates. And then we have an assembler turning them into magnetic coils. That's going to be convenient. And there we go, brand new ship. Now, of course, we'll need some fuel for it. We'll grab some of that in a moment. But since this is going to be a freighter, I'm going to hop in the seat real quick. We're going to rename it to Titanium Freighter. Get a little bit of a different color scheme, I think. What kind of a gray for titanium? It's silverish, right? Give a little bit of an accent color. Let's go kind of reddish. All right, the Titanium Express is ready for its maiden voyage. Let's juice her up there. Hop in the seat. Undock from the shipyard, and let's find the titanium asteroid. That's silica. And titanium, there we go. Alright, I'd say we're close enough. Hop on our seat, build menu, and build a brand new station. Let's pop down right there, seems good. Works for me. You know what? I want to get this asteroid out of the way. Doesn't have anything to give us, but we do have a mining laser now, which will help clear it out a little bit more quickly. Also, if you like, you can change your firing groups. Move the mining laser over with the tractor beam. And that way you're tractoring as you mine, which is pretty convenient. Okay, let's dock. Let's call this station the Titanium Station. I know, very original. And let's call this Titanium Station, Titanium Dock. We're going to want it to load any titanium ore that's in it. Now, real quick, let's also paint it to kind of match what we did with the ship, right? Kind of a silvery color and nice red accent. Can even maybe lighten up the floors a little bit. Just a little bit. There we go. And back to the station builder. I'm just going to dump our inventory. Now, what we're going to want is a couple of station bits. Let's put it the other one, let's say over here. We're going to need a mining drone. Let's toss it on the end. Again, we're not going to live here. It doesn't need to be fancy. And we're going to need an additional dock. Now, the moment of truth is whether or not we brought enough resources. Of course, for a station to function, it's going to need power. And it would help if we reclaim our resources from the station. That would be an improvement, I think, in the future, hopefully, that they allow you to construct station bits from your personal inventory. Plop down a reactor here. Let's get a little bit of a buffer for it. Although I think there is a buffer built in, but We're not gonna risk that. This is gonna be for power. Alright, we should have enough resources to finish this out. You can see we are producing the titanium plate. We want to do that here rather than back at home. It just saves us space back home. A lot of space, in fact. So we just need to draw ourselves a line. There we go. That's all it's going to take. Now we have a almost fully automated station for all of our titanium needs. Make sure it's set up to load. Actually, we need to switch those over. We clicked the wrong thing to begin with. And that will start to load the ship automatically. There we go. We have some inventory going. Excellent. Now, I showed before that we can edit the ship if we're in the seat. As you see, we are not in the seat. We hit that button. It just brings up our personal inventory. If we get in the seat, we hit the same button. This is E. We now have the ship configurator. But we don't have to be in the seat because if you notice in the top right corner, it says Stations 2, Ships 2. That's because we can manage a fleet. We can do that from anywhere. So I'm going to hit Y, and it's going to show us all the ships we own, all the stations we own. And this is the titanium freighter. I'm going to make sure the autopilot is disabled. I don't want it to take off. I'm going to start with this station here. Titanium station, titanium dock. So that will bring the ship to here. We're going to give it a wait condition. We're going to say we want you to wait to get titanium plates. Let's go with 1,000. We'll say greater than or equal to. So once it gets to the station, it will stay here until its inventory contains that much of the item that we've selected. In this case, titanium plates. We're then going to send it back home. You can see I've prepared this home base titanium unload. Do another wait. I'm going to have it unload only titanium plates. And I'm going to say less than or equal to 0. Because we don't need this to be bouncing back and forth if it still has titanium plates on it. Its whole mission in life is just to transport plates to our home base. And then finally, after that's done, we're going to add one more destination. And we're going to look for home base, titanium refuel dock. Now, I realize that there is titanium fuel dock here, but for the purpose of this, I'm using refuel as in refueling the ship. So we're going to select the refuel dock. Add one more wait condition. We're going to say pick up fuel until we're equal to or greater than 50. And that way the ship can't ever run out of fuel and be stranded somewhere in space. That's all we need. Once we enable it, it will start wherever the current arrow is, which would be docking here. It's already docked. You can see we turned it on, it pulled away from the station and then redocked with it. And now it's waiting for enough material to take off. Now we're not going to sit here and wait for it to have 1,000 because 1,000 is most of the inventory. So if every 2 is 100, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see it's 400 per line. That'd be 800, 1,200. That leaves enough slots for fuel or anything miscellaneous if for some reason you get something else in the inventory. Or maybe you need to borrow the ship for some reason. We don't want to put above that because it would get here and it would never leave because it would never reach the amount that we've asked for it to take. But let's head back home because we got one more thing to do. Alright, we are back home. Let's make sure this is unloading properly. Pretty easy to check. Sure enough. As you can see, I set up a little titanium wing here. Over here, we are producing hull plates. Over here, we are producing lightweight frames. And we have a splitter that we can take off to do other things. And for now, I'm not going to set up storage for these. We don't tend to need them in high quantity. And the final thing we're going to want to do in a few moments is properly automate our research. But real quick, we got one more thing that's very important that we need to do. Now, when we make those remote stations, there's one very important detail we can't overlook. Make ourselves another small freighter. Let's give it some fuel. You can see how nice it's been having fuel on our main station that's been automated right from the beginning. Always have it handy. Hop in here. Let's rename this to Titanium Station Refuel Freighter. And then we're going to configure it. Add a destination. We're going to start here at home base with the home base Titanium Station Fuel Dock. Yeah, I updated the name. Made it a little bit clearer. We're going to do a wait condition. We want it to pick up fuel. And keeping in mind, it's going to put fuel in its own engine. So we need to have enough fuel for it to also be able to refuel the station that it's going to. So let's say something like 250, which is probably way more than we need. Then we're going to add station and go to Titanium Station and select the fuel dock. Now, obviously, we forgot to rename it, but we know that this is the Titanium dock, and there's only one other dock on there. And then add a condition, fuel, and let's say less than or equal to 50. That way it keeps a stock on it. And then let's enable it. Of course, it's going to take off with us on it, but that's okay because our first destination is this station. So it's just going to boomerang around. It'll take us to the other side of the station. Do a little bit of fancy flying. And it's going to load up some fuel to now automate the refueling of the Titanium Station. So now the Titanium Station should be 100% efficient, and we won't ever need to go out there unless we want to, in the future, maybe ramp up its production. But otherwise, it's completely hands-off. And that is ultimately what this game is designed to do. Build stations, build ships, set routes, and automate everything. Now, the one last thing that we want to do is get a little feel for setting up some proper research production. All right, we're ready to fire up the industrial research machine. This is just kind of an example of something you might want to do once you start getting your resources put together. And again, it's nice having a little bit of space to work in. What we're going to do is we're going to have a couple of them dedicated to the advanced research and a couple of them to the regular research. So if we go to the research screen, let's say solar panels requires 100 material science, 100 computation science. Let's grab that. And these can operate individually. You don't have to have it coming in at the same time, but both of them have to complete in order for the research to be finished. And again, you don't need to select what type of research. It's just whatever gets in there is the type of research it will do. Now, these are a little bit bugged. Sometimes if you switch between the materials, it won't work. You have to take it out and put it back in, which is why I want to kind of sanitize it and just send one type of research material to these particular machines. But there it goes, it's kicking in. You can see the research progress on the top left is 5%. And you can see it's only counting towards that one type. And for this, we're going to need the basic circuits. Now, this is going to be a stand-in proxy for the silica. We haven't done any silica on screen. It's the same as any other resource. So we can just imagine that this is coming in from a dock where we have another station somewhere else mining the silica for us and bringing it back. We've already seen how to do that. But you can see this has got a bunch of silica in it. Let's grab our conveyors, bring it across, because that's going to take the processed silica and it's going to take nickel plate. And then finally what we're going to need to do, what we're going to want to do here is we're going to cut this short just a little bit. And we're going to do a little underground belting. Turn it around. It can only go so far. If you've played Factorio, you're familiar with this. And do it just like that. Connect that up. Right across here. Have the game save cause it to stutter. It'll look terrible. And there we go. Now we're producing basic circuits. And this right here will carry us through all researches that are currently in the game. Doesn't need to be any more complex than that. Now, last thing I want to do is just kind of point out a couple of issues that are currently in the game, some limitations. First off, if we take a look at our map, we have a couple of things on the map I want to talk about. The station that we built around here. You might be wondering, why did I have two different ships traveling to that station, one dedicated to fuel and one dedicated to the resources, when we could have carried both on the same one? Well, that's because of limitations in the AI for setting up that automation. So if we take a look at the automation for a ship. Now let's say when we had this go back to the titanium station, right? We have it here at home, it unloads, it picks up fuel anyway. And you would think, well, we can go back to here and have it drop off the fuel. The problem with that is that we don't know just necessarily how much fuel that station is using in relation to what it's producing. And the same goes if you were to have multiple stations and have one refueling ship bouncing between them. Eventually it could get stuck. What we need is an additional wait condition that is time-based, saying when we're at this location, wait until you're below 50 hydrogen fuel, or wait for a maximum of 5 minutes. So that's a limitation of the current system that prevents us from securely using one ship for multiple purposes. It's not that big of a deal, but it is something to look out for so you don't end up having your ships get stuck out in space. The other thing about the current game is if we look at the research tree, you'll see that we have a warp drive. This does function. It brings your ship up to 9,000 meters per second. It does kind of feel like they missed an opportunity of making it 9,001, so it would be over 9,000, but I digress. But right now there is no purpose to having a warp drive. So if we look at the map, we zoom way out, you can see this is where we're currently at, and there are other sectors that we can make our way to. These sectors are not populated. Even though we can spin around here and we can see a human station, we can even mark it on our map, there's not actually anything there. If we warp up to that spot, it's just empty space. There's no actual station there. Likewise, we can over here, this is going to be a relic shipyard. There's no shipyard there. Nothing to see here. It's a waste of your time to go there. But again, this is a playtest. This is probably alpha or maybe even pre-alpha. It's basically a tech demo. So we'll give them some time to start adding that content and see where they go with it. But that's going to be it for this review of Main Sequence. Again, if you're interested in trying it out yourself, at the time of this recording, you can apply for the playtest on the Steam page. I have enjoyed playing it and experimenting with it and getting a feel for what's in it, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they go with this title. But as far as the current state goes, you have effectively seen all of the content. If you found it informative, helpful, or in any way entertaining, all I ask is that you leave a like on the way out. If you're new to the channel, we really like space games, factory games, and general automation here, so maybe take a look at what else we have to offer. But thank you very much for coming out, and I hope you'll return for other projects. If you enjoyed this, you may want to check out one of these other videos, and thank you very much for your time.